Nagbabalik po ang JUANEUKONEK at ngayong hapon po napaka-espesyal ng ating panauhin. Makakasama po natin si Senator Richard Gordon mula po sa Manila. Sir, magandang araw po sa inyo, magandang hapon po sa inyo. Maraming salamat po sa pagpapaunlak ninyo sa amin ngayong hapon. Marami po kami mga tanong bilang OFW, bilang migrants in Europe. Nakikita po namin yung kalagayan ng mga kababayan natin dyan sa Pilipinas at hinahagupit po ng pandemya ang Pilipinas ngayon. So, bati muna po tayo sa mga nanunood ngayon, sir.
Good evening to all our listeners in London, our watchers in England and in Europe. I'm very honored to be invited here. You sound like a very, very intelligent lot. And I'm proud to know that there are some solicitors there, people who also counsel on immigration like Jean, and certainly people who are doctors who are practicing there. Magaling naman talaga tayo mga Pilipino, and we just have to assert ourselves and continue to grow and be a factor in developing other countries so that they can continue to help develop our countries as well through the contributions of the OFWs para lumakas lalo ang ating bansa. You're a big factor, one of the biggest factors, in fact, in sustaining our ability to be able to continue as a government. So congratulations to all of you, and we appreciate all your efforts. Certainly from here, we have always been very supportive of all the OFWs. I personally have brought troubled OFWs home from Kazakhstan to the Middle East, to Lebanon, to Gaza, and even in the Cote d'Ivoire, people who are being trafficked. And it's a very difficult task and very heartrending.
Senator Gordon, kayo po ay veterano na sa pagresponde sa mga krisis sa Pilipinas at nasubaybayan po natin yan mula mayor pa po kayo ng Olongapo. How challenging is it to be leading Philippine Red Cross ngayong panahon po ng pandemya?
I've always had several advocacies. Even when I was a student, I was always active in extracurricular activities. I was at the student council. I worked in Welfareville. I worked in I serve mass regularly. It's something that I have learned from my parents who were also in the Red Cross, and it's something of we're volunteers. We don't get paid. I don't get paid at all. I don't use any facilities of the Red Cross in terms of my personal uses. No, it's what is important here is that if you can help. It's going to be. It gives me a lot of while I help, it actually gives me a lot of spiritual surcease from working na napakahirap sa gobyerno kung magkamisan napakasikip ng bürokrasya at kuminsan masyado ka nakakita ng maraming compromises instead of hard decisions that have to be made. And so sa Red Cross, mas mabilis ako nakakatulong, and I've been there all my life practically from the earthquake in I started going out of Red Cross, out of Olongapo. I went to the earthquake in the great earthquake of Luzon, in Baguio, and in Dagupan, and in Nueva Ecija. And then Pinatubo erupted the following year. And then we've been helping in Cebu during their floods. We've been helping, for example, in Haiyan, we built about 83,000 homes. There is an awful lot of support from the international community because the Red Cross has grown to be a very, very respected organization. We have tie-ups with the British Red Cross, in fact, and a lot of other societies. So, hindi mahirap pero masarap na trabaho, magandang trabaho because nakikita mo yung ginagawa mo, nakikita mo yung ginhawa ng tao pag nakakatulong ka. Hindi yung inaapak mo yung tao, hindi ka nag-aabot, inaangat mo yung tao. That is the most important thing. Teaching him that he has dignity, na hindi siya palaabot. I always say, pag ayoko mag-abot pag nag-aabot ka, yung kamay na nag-aabot mas mataas doon sa kamay na tumatanggap. And that teaches a culture of dependency. And if you know Dick Gordon, you know that I do not like dependency. I mean, we have to carry our own load. There are no entitlements, but at the same time, we help those who are vulnerable all the time.
Crystal?
Yes. Hello po, Senator Gordon.
Hello there, Crystal.
It's very nice to meet you po. I must
Likewise,
say,
Joanne.
I'm really inspired by your work, from being a solicitor or a lawyer in the Philippines to the advocacy that you're doing in terms of human rights and all the good things that you do or you did for the Alcababayans. My question to you, Senator Gordon, is that how would you describe the situation in the Philippines related to the pandemic in front of the international community?
I would not like to criticize the government at this time, although there is plenty of things to be done, and that's why the Red Cross has stepped up on the plate. Do you realize, Crystal and Rose and Jean, na nung nagsimula ang pandemic, I read a book about 15, 20 years ago called The Great Influenza, which killed 50 to 100 million people in the pandemic in 1916, 17, and 18 during World War One. And because of that, I always wanted to make sure that we're prepared for any disaster. And we fashioned the Red Cross since I took over into an organization that just doesn't react. It plans. I have 4 P's: predict, plan, prepare, practice. That's also good for life. You predict what's going to happen to your family, you plan for it, you prepare what you need, and you practice it so that your family is always ready. And because of that, uh, we had some practice in SARS. When we had SARS a few years back, I was Secretary of Tourism and at the same time Red Cross, and we reacted with Secretary Dairit, and we were able to quell it. There was a lot of panic in Singapore and Hong Kong and many other places, but it didn't spread here. So that I warn people na meron tayong SARS, matagal na tayo may sakit na SARS, yung severe awareness and responsibility shortage. Hindi yung, hindi yung technical term ng SARS, no? Severe awareness and responsibility shortage. Filipinos must always be aware of what the problem is, and they must really know how to react, and not just react, but be very, very continually reinventing themselves when fighting the pandemic in this particular case. So, noong mangyari yan, nakita ko na ang RITM talagang aping-api sa appropriations. That's why nagagalit ako, dapat ang DOH, yung perang ginagamit yan, minomodernize yung ating health system. Kaya kung hindi natin naayusin, kukolapse yan. Mawawala ang doktor, magkakasakit yung mga nurses, yung mga pumapasok sa atin, pwede magdala ng sakit, yung mga umaabot dito, pwede manghawa na pumapasok sa atin. So we predicted that testing was going to be key. And so right away, when I saw RITM could only test 300 a day, sabi ko, dun tayo. So I checked right away, my contacts abroad, Singapore, Hong Kong, in China, and we found that we could test 1,000 per machine. And so right away, we took a risk. We bought 4 machines initially, so we had 4,000 tests a day capability. And but that's not easy, because you have to come up with the laboratory that would have all the other accoutrements, such as negative pressure, and that you have to have training of the medical technicians. You have to have doctors, and you have to pass through the requirements of the Department of Health. And so when we did that, we were testing very fast already. We wanted to test Manila only because we were here. And then all of a sudden, the government came to us and said, "You are the solution to the crisis. You have all these machines." And I said there were 4 more machines coming. We were going to open another lab within the same building compound in Mandaluyong. And then when they came over, sabi, kailangan namin tulong ninyo. So we made an agreement. They coaxed me to sign an agreement with PhilHealth because we cannot do it alone. We have to get back our capital in terms of being able to sustain the continuous effort at testing. And when that happened, later on, we added another 14 machines in the old headquarters in the port area. So now we had about 23 to 24 machines. And when that happened, OWA started sending in people right away. We were testing OFWs, people coming in. To date, we have tested almost 1 million people from OFWs alone. And at the same time, we're testing other folks. Later on, we would introduce the saliva testing para hindi na sinusundot yung ilong or yung You just spit through the saliva, paraphernalia. And in fact, lately, we have now tied up with some motorcycle groups called Angkas, and they would bring this to the homes, and you can spit on it, and then uh, the saliva is placed in a tube like this, and you put a barcode, and you fill up a tray like this, about 96 of them, and it is brought to the laboratory. And within 24 to 48 hours, the test will be finished. And it's RT-PCR as well. And having done that, it was cheaper. And since we've already tested 4.7 million Filipinos with our machines. We now have 14 laboratories in the entire country. Mindanao alone, I think we have about 4 or 5. In Cotabato is the latest, sa Muslimlandia. And we have them in Cagayan de Oro, in Zamboanga, and Surigao. All right? And then we have in Cebu, in Panay Island, and also in Bacolod. And then we have in Isabela, and we have them in Clark and Subic, dalawa yun. And then we have in Batangas, and soon we'll be opening up additional centers as well. This has been very good because kung walang testing, hindi natin malalaman kung anong sakit natin, kung gaano karami. And because of that, we could trace. Now, again, using the OFWs, nakuha ko yung saliva test na ito dahil nag-research kami, ginagamit to ng University of Illinois for their students, and they hardly have any COVID because they can just step in, spit, and they're tested iba once a week, iba twice a week. So testing, tracing, and treatment. Napapagamot ko sila. Now, Red Cross also has oxygen bottles that we got, and we're able to help people who have need of oxygen as well. But talagang start namin, nagbigay kami ng mga PPEs, even in the psychopathic in the National Mental Hospital. And we gave PPEs as well as masks to all the Red Cross volunteers that were involved. And we test all the doctors in government hospitals in Metro Manila. We test them once every 2 weeks. We also created a 1158 system na parang 911. You can call us and we can give you advice kung meron kang if you feel that you're getting COVID, and we can catch you by ambulance. We can collect you by ambulance. We have our nurses and our volunteers, and they're paid well. We always pay top dollar for the med techs, especially, and the nurses. And we are in the Senate, and that is your question a while ago, Rose, at saka Crystal. How are we able to? There is no conflict of interest. There you can see the hospital tent that we have, along with the nice modern beds, and they're there, and we're able to assist in terms of legislation. Yung mga healthcare workers, pag namatay ang doktor, may 1 million ako naglagay noon. That's very paltry amount when you consider that they do a lot, and also the nurses and the staff. Lately, nagawa ko ng law na nakalimutan na ang hospital is dangerous, hindi lang doon sa ward, because of the Delta variant. They're in the air, so pag pumasok ko sa hospital, toxic na yung atmosphere. So now, we're adding them to the benefits of what they call, amounts of money that will be given to them by way of special risk allowance. So maraming ginagawa ang Red Cross. Kompleto talaga it's a wide range.
Oo. Sir, magtatanong po si Jean Alcantara, but I'll also call in na si John David, pati po si Mr. Romeo Mendoza para po makasama siya sa discussion natin. Okay, Jean, go ahead with your question.
Okay, sige. Senator, just to pick up on what you said earlier, no, na marami kayo na iuwi ng mga OFWs. Kasi with an estimated mga 600,000 daw OFWs, na bumalik sa Pilipinas dahil sa pandemya, siyempre nangailangan sila. So ano po bang safety nets meron diyan para sa mga OFWs? Para matulungan sila, pamilya, at sandali po. Then, so palagay niyo po ba kaya ba talaga ng Pilipinas? Kaya ba ng Red Cross? O kailangan pabalikin uli sila sa labas ng bansa?
Hindi naman pwedeng pabalikin dahil kung tapos sa yung contract, wala tayong magagawa doon until they get a contract, no? And the Red Cross is not the only one. The government is doing its best as well. In fairness to the government, they have programs na nagbibigay sila ng cash grant, education grants. They're conducting retraining. For example, the assist and repatriation as of October 2021, 721,345 have been repatriated. Ang Red Cross, ang contribution dyan, yung testing, and ang gobyerno, dinadala nila sa amin yan. And of course, yung medical assistance for them, I think the government has provided 100 million for 10,018 OFWs. Educational grant for displaced OFWs and their dependents, 19,325. I'm just calling this from the Department of Labor and Employment. And I know that this is happening. And then in one-stop service centers, they serve 545,000 OFWs, and they reviewed 679,000 contracts. They signed international labor agreements, and the protection upon return. Beneficiaries provided with calamity assistance, and 14,245 beneficiaries for skills training, and 13,271 beneficiaries for livelihood grant. I'm not the government spokesman. I'm just citing from the research team that I have, anong ginawa ng gobyerno. And then Balik na Buhay, Balik Pinas, Overseas Filipino Workers Enterprise Development. Marami mga programs na ganyan. And we can only pray and hope na people are using it para magamit talaga itrabaho na. Ang Red Cross nabibigay rin ng psychosocial support. Siyempre, narindi ang mga tao, di ba? O ba, namatayan sila. I understand that there were about 23 or 25 OFWs that have died since the pandemic abroad and here. And we provide psychosocial support. Sometimes we bring them up in the hospital and we bring them to their families in an ambulance. Kung may sakit sila, dadali sa hospital para hindi na sila matataranta. And even outside, for example, yung mga tinatawag natin, mga LSIs, locally stranded individuals, naglagay kami ng mga tents para hindi sila natutulog sa kalye at nabibigay kami ng hot meals to them. So, obviously, kaya ba? Kakayanin, pero kapos pa rin. Tingin ko kapos pa rin.
Sir, magandang pakinggan po yung na-share ninyo sa amin, especially yung mga pwede nating makuha sa gobyerno sa Pilipinas, ano? Kaya nandito po si John, pati si Mr. Romeo Mendoza para ibahagi po o magtanong po sa inyo because apparently sa ibang bahagi ng Pilipinas, sa mga ibang pamilya sa Pilipinas, hindi po nararamdaman yung tulong na ito. So go ahead, John, kung ano po yung question ninyo for the Senator.
So Senator, you talk about testing and other things. What about vaccination? Dito sa UK, ang mga tulad ng mga ayuda at testing have been ongoing, but the government its central goal is to vaccinate all the citizens para hindi na tayo masyadong mag-rely dito sa mga nagkakaroon ng sa government resources or Red Cross resources that have got to help people na getting severe COVID, which the vaccine can what do you call this? Can manage with a vaccine. People won't get severe COVID. But what do you think is the government or other sectors score in terms of vaccination?
Again, I don't want to be critical, but
Sir,
if I were running it,
Sir, bilang reporter po dito sa Europa at nangangalap tayo ng kwento ng mga kababayan po natin, magpo-follow up lang dito, doon ako sa sinabi ni John. Kasi the pulse that we get from our OFWs in Europe is that maganda yung testing, nandyan yan, pero ang gusto talaga po nilang marinig is ano ba yung plano ng gobyerno sa pag-vaccinate para mas mapabilis po at mas maparami yung mabakunahan sa Pilipinas. Dahil nakikita po natin yan in Europe na, talagang yung kampanya at para mabakunahan ang mga citizens, talagang yun ang priority ng mga governments here.
In fairness, kahit anong sama ng Pilipino, yung ibang gobyerno, government officials natin, kahit ang impression natin ay masasamang tao yung iba, which is a wrong impression actually. I think everybody wants to help. Ang problema natin, and here I'll be a little critical, no, na dapat kailangan natin yung mga sila Secretary Duque, yung mga doktor natin, dapat sila ang nangasiwa. Ang nangyari, hinati. So nagkaroon ng IATF, may mga doktor rin naman doon, pero ang problema, unang-una, gusto natin mag-vaccinate. Pero nagkaroon ng mga bureaucratic rigmarole, nahuli doon sa pag-order ng vaccine, no? Kasi ayaw natin tumanggap na walang demanda pagka nagkaroon ng aberya doon sa vaccine. So tumagal yun. Yun ang isang excuse na sinasabi. Pangalawa, I think medyo umasa tayo sa China, nabibigyan tayo. Alam mo, ako hindi pala asa. That's why in Red Cross, and even in Subic Bay, if you remember, I took over Subic when the bases left, and I had a slogan there, self-help, self-reliance, cooperation. So, ang ginagawa natin, dapat, talagang sariling sikap ang gagawin natin. And ang nangyari, nahuli tayo sa pagbili ng mga bakuna. At talagang mahuhuli tayo. Walang magaling dyan. Alam niyo kung bakit? Siyempre, yung mga Amerikano, unahin nila yung sarili nila. Yung British, gumagawa sila, meron silang sarili. Siyempre, yung Europeans, they're first world countries, they have the capacity to pay cash right away, dadaling kagad, unahin nila yan. So, there will be a lag with the countries that cannot afford to pay right away. Kaya nga merong WHO, yung COVAX. Yung COVAX, nagpo-contribution lahat ng bansa doon para hindi naman madidihado masyado yung mga bansa katulad ng Africa, even the Philippines, na hindi makakakuha ng vaccine. Pero ganun pa man, dapat agresibo tayo na kami nga, tumulong pa kami bumili ng Moderna, malasakit yung isang negosyante, nakisama kami, naglabas kami ng pera pero hindi naman dumating kagad. So marami pang nakabitin na hindi pa nababakunahan. Pero ngayon, dumarating na ngayon ang mga bakuna, Pfizer, marami na, at saka ako, AstraZeneca ako, inintay ko muna mabakunahan lahat ng tiga Red Cross bago ako nagpabakuna, yung mga leader namin. And therefore, ang nangyari ngayon, humahabol tayo. Pero una, there is also a problem na yung iba ayaw magpabakuna. Even in London, even in America, maraming taong ayaw magpabakuna, nag-i-insist sa mga gamot. Fine, you can take ivermectin as far as I'm concerned. Pero dapat magpabakuna ka because you have the duty to protect others. Pero hindi yun ang malaking excuse also. Iba natatakot, iba natatakot lumabas. Kaya ang Red Cross tumulong dyan. Ang ginawa ng Red Cross, we have, I believe, 15 buses. 15 ba? We have 16 now, 16. And I'll show you a picture. We got 16 buses. Kumukuha kami ng bakuna sa gobyerno. Dinadala namin yan sa probinsya. Ayan, makikita nyo, nasa Cavite, 3, 2 sa Laguna, 2 sa Batangas, 1 sa Quezon, 1 sa Isabela, 1 sa Cagayan, at dito sa Camanaba, may 1, 3 sa Cebu, sa Ceres, sa Capiz, at saka Negros Occidental. Doon kami nakakahiram ng buses, nilalagyan namin ng volunteer doctor para magbakuna, at nakikita nyo, kung hindi lalapit si Mohammed sa bundok, yung bundok na lalapit sa kay Mohammed. Baliktad actually. Malapit yung magbabakuna sa tao para makalapit. But still, that isn't enough. Because unang-una, hindi naman talaga ganun karami ang buses at Red Cross, yan ang gumagawa. And I'm sure we also have several vaccination centers. I think we have almost 30 vaccination centers.